Hello and welcome to the Drywall podcast. I'm your host, Nick Harmon. I've been in and around the drywall industry for more than 20 years. Worked piece rate, I've worked in the union, and also hourly. I'm super excited to have Joe Loden of JDL Drywall with us today. Joe's company is out of San Diego, California. JDL Drywall is an extremely professional company specializing in high-end construction and remodel work.
Yeah.
Last question before we wrap up. I wanted to know, have you messed around, because you were talking early on in the podcast about being open to new ideas and trying fun new stuff. Have you messed around with the trim techs and the drywall art and the specialty beads?
I love
do you sell that to your builder, like the concept of stepple or reveal bead around doors? Like, 'cause that shit's cool, and I don't think the designers know about that stuff, man.
Well, okay, so a couple points here. You hear people saying that they're the top tradesmen, right? I know everything about drywall, and I always say you haven't really mastered your trade until you can sit down at a table with 4 or 5 architects and talk your trade.
We talk about the difference between the Darby and Skimming blades, and we also talk about him learning how to do drywall in Australia, of all places. Joe is a fantastic guy, and I really enjoyed this interview, and I hope you do as well. The Drywall podcast is brought to you by Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. You can find out more about Fresco Harmony on the website, www.frescoharmony.com. If you'd like to try Fresco Harmony for free, just email us at info@frescoharmony.com, and we'll send you a sample pack. We appreciate Joe Loden being with us today on the Drywall podcast. And without further ado, Joseph Daniel Loden. We've got Joe Loden out of San Diego, JDL Drywall.
Yes.
And Joe Daniel Logan, correct?
Joseph Daniel.
Joseph Daniel Loden. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't get very creative with my business name. When it came down to the time to fill out the forms, I kind of panicked. I was like okay, JDL.
Right. Did we talk a little while ago and you were like, I've been waiting long enough. I'm going to start really pushing this stuff. And then you were like, called me and you were like, and then we talked about the sand a little bit. Was that you?
I am pushing it hard. Yes, I do really want to push Fresco 100%. We've done 2 jobs with it so far.
Okay.
Just did a fireplace with JJ Ash, and then another fireplace with Gallery Pearl. Okay. And the number one, it's fun. Like, good. I kind of feel like we're doing something artistic. You know, we're not running for the square footage rate. Like, it's actually like a piece of art, this fireplace. It's really cool, and the feedback we've got from it is amazing as well.
Excellent.
Excellent. I am pushing it.
Cool. Well, and
part of me wants to go all in and just put Fresco Harmony on my van,
And you can. There's no rules. It's not or a magnet or a small magnet, like something like we do have kind of like a ambassador program, but it's kind of like, if you've done a few jobs, if you've done like 5 jobs, we'll throw you up on the website and you can tell people you're a certified applicator. If I've seen that you've done a few jobs and you look like you kind of know what you're doing and you're not an idiot, then I'll vouch for you. Nothing really beyond that.
The thing I kind of like about it is I think the possibilities are kind of endless. I think what I'm doing right now is I just the pure basics of it, but then I see you're doing like the smoke, like a smoke finish and that type of
Yeah.
stuff. That's really cool. So
Yeah, and we don't have to talk all about Fresco Harmony the whole time, although I love talking about it, and that's
yeah, of
that's
course.
partially what inspired me to start a podcast was talking to
Yeah,
guys like you, and we just talk about drywall and Fresco Harmony, and it just like blossomed into all these like great conversations that I
yeah.
get to have with the pros. And but yes, it's endless. The hard part I think about plaster systems, Fresco Harmony, anytime you're doing something artistic is keeping it simple. And this is something I've learned over years and years, starting with the most grandiose, like complicated and it's also faster. So I can sell it at a cheaper price
Mhm.
and I can do more footage and have more fun
Yeah,
and the client gets more footage if I'm not concentrating on maybe such a difficult finish. Like I tell the plaster guys, we'll do an accent wall in fancy shiny Venetian plaster that looks brilliant and gorgeous, and then like do the rest of the room in Fresco Harmony. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be the feature wall or the
yeah,
fireplace or whatever, but it can be the feature wall as well. A builder can save money doing Fresco Harmony in a place where they would normally put tile.
yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
And so I'm curious about more recently, we talked on the phone just before this interview, and you were getting into I mean, you're excited about it.
Hmm.
So you're getting more into marketing or advertising, and you were telling me about just as you do a couple projects and you show people the projects, maybe it's not the builders that are showing interest, but it's the designers. Can you tell me
Yeah.
more about that?
Yeah. Well, 100%. I mean, as we know on big jobs. So I live in a coastal area of San Diego. We work on very high income homes. One of the jobs I'm doing right now, it's a $2 million remodel.
Okay, right.
Just the remodel's $2 million.
Yeah,
So
real estate's through the roof over there. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's nuts. So of course, in those jobs, I mean, even all the furniture is custom made. It's an incredible home.
Yeah.
So the builder himself is actually making very few decisions, right? He's
Okay.
kind of going off the scope. The real ones pulling the weight are the architects, and the real power is the interior designers,
Yep.
right? They are the ones directly working with the client, doing a job walk every week,
Okay.
um, and can be a pain in the butt because they come in and they just make changes,
Yeah. Yeah, of
late
course.
late in the game.
Yep.
But they are also the ones with more of the artistic vision of
Yep.
what the space can become.
So what are you showing? What are you showing the designers that maybe gets them interested in Fresco Harmony? Do you have samples? Do you have like
we we
the
we
color
have we have,
chart?
we have just a couple samples. We have your marketing material, your color
Okay.
chart, and then we direct them also to Fresco Instagram as well. So
That's a great
yeah,
place to point
we can
people.
see all
Yeah.
the products on there and your projects. So
Yep.
that's a great one.
Yep.
As we do more jobs, we make more samples because
Right.
I know samples will sell
Yep.
if we can just pull out 5 samples from our van
Yep.
and show them what it really looks like,
Yep.
because it's always way different than on Instagram. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so far the feedback has been great, easy product to work with, and yeah, it's actually kind of fun. So
Very cool.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
And how did you find out about Fresco Harmony?
You know, I I believe it's my job as a business owner to be on top of trends. So as I said, we work on really high-end jobs, and I believe um, I need to have knowledge of current products and trends to share with my clients. So I'm always out there researching what's going on in the industry.
Nice.
Are there new tools that can make our
Sure.
job easier or better? Are there new products that can set us apart or
Sure.
save money or just give us a better finish. So I
Yep.
found you guys probably on Instagram, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
And I wanted to use your products for a while, but you keep an eye on something and it takes a little while to actually get it in your hands and
Yeah.
get a client that wants to do it,
Yep.
but
Did you
luckily
request a sample pack?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Good.
did. Yeah. Um, but the hard one was actually getting a designer, a builder that wanted to use it
Sure.
on like sight unseen, brand new
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
But luckily, right now in my region, fireplaces and range hoods in kitchens
Yep.
are becoming very like in vogue and style to go plaster, like a
Okay.
plaster finish.
Yep.
So
They
we
are
did
here. They
one,
are here too.
yeah. So that's kind of what we're being able to sample with right now to show designers and builders, and then hopefully from there it's just going to keep growing to full walls, full rooms, full
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's also sales too. Sometimes, like I've gone into a job where the builder's been like, "Well, we've got a budget for specialty wall finishes on this one. Can you give me a bid?" And I'll walk out and be like, "Dude, you've got $900 worth of fresco here. You're like right at the minimum bid." And they have, unbeknownst to me, they have a $4,000 budget.
yeah,
I'm immediately like, why don't you do like the master bedroom ceiling, accent wall in the living room, headboard wall in the master bedroom, the
yeah,
kitchen hood, the fireplace? Like, if it's simple and fast, I can adjust my price so that I can do more footage. The
mhm,
client gets more product, and I get to do more walls because, like you said, it is fun, and
yeah,
that's my bread and butter. I don't do drywall, so I'm always selling, and my price points are really competitive.
yeah, and that's amazing that you got into that market. Because for
It
me,
is. It took
I,
years.
yeah, a long time. For me as a business owner, I need to be thinking of like kind of every market.
Yep.
So I try to be very smart about the jobs we take on, who we deal with, the economy. Part of me always wants to have a little hand in continuing to do repair work, right?
Yeah.
Only because repair work is recession proof, right?
Right.
Even
Yes.
if the economy takes a big dump,
Yeah.
right? Pipes still break
Yeah.
and repair work still has to happen. Now,
Yep.
that's a very small part of our business now. It
Mm-hmm.
was a big part, but I always thought that's a smart move
Yeah.
to somewhat say recession proof,
Yeah.
right? But then
And
we're,
and also specialty walls is
yeah,
very, like during COVID, people hunkered down a little bit, and we did a lot of work. Because they
yeah,
wanted to do they wanted to do walls, so
yeah,
that part was very interesting
yeah.
too.
Well, that's that's
Um,
that's the whole key. If you have a couple different
yeah,
niches in the market, you should be able to keep busy.
yeah, because if you're a company doing houses, just straight new construction like that market fluctuates pretty heavily.
Yeah,
That can go down to nothing.
it does. And
And then
that
you got a more crews. You got maybe 20 guys, 30 guys that you're running. It's like you got to keep cranking that engine, and when that dies, it's just super hard to keep those guys busy.
and that was something I never wanted to do. So we have never been a production company.
Okay.
So we are not going to go out to like a housing estate and do 10 houses.
Okay.
We don't do wham bam, thank you, ma'am,
Yeah.
and spray it with orange peel or knockdown.
Yep.
Everything we do is pretty much custom homes. The trend right now is either level 5 smooth
Okay.
or very, very light skip chow,
Okay.
almost like an imperfect smooth.
Yep.
Luckily we work with builders that actually give us time to
Okay.
complete a project. I think that's one of the sad things about drywall
Yep.
is how so many people have to run, Like
we
literally,
get rushed.
yeah,
It's like,
like
oh, the
literally,
electrician took 2 months to put the electrician in, but now we need the job done yesterday. So you guys
yeah,
are really going to have to move. And it's
yeah.
like, what? How come we don't get extra time?
No, and drywall, it's a craft, it's a trade, as we all know.
Yep.
And my company too, I know drywall is somewhat of an illusion to make it look flat and stuff like that, but
It is.
we truly actually try to make it flat. We use Darby's and the straight edge. We make
Nice.
sure our corners are square.
What brand of Darby you like?
Um, I don't even know what brand. We just have these old ones that I don't even know what brand they are.
Yeah. Well, they
Um,
have the new Darbys, level 5,
oh
the
no, we have
Columbia.
that. We have the skimming blades.
Oh, is
I
that
think
now? So is a skimming blade different than a Darby?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
what's the difference there?
Okay, so a Darby is a more solid piece of metal,
Okay,
almost used for like traditional plaster. So the skimming blades are actually very thin. They
okay,
have a lot of flex. A
okay.
Darby doesn't have any flex. It's just a straight edge,
That's
right?
your final coat on
No,
that big butt.
it's actually more for the fill coat, right? So if
Okay,
we have to really fill in something and we're going to use like either there's a big hollow in the wall or a big bump,
okay,
right? Then you want to, fill it with Durabond or
okay.
some sort of hot mud.
Yeah,
Then use Darby to just pull up any voids, fill
okay.
in any lumps or bumps. The skimming blades, on the other hand, are great for the finish.
The final.
Final coat where you're going to use some topping, a more thin
Yeah, I
coat.
like that you can pull out that big ass blade and just do one shot over the butt. Like that's so
Yeah,
cool. I
that's,
never it's the skimming blades were kind of after my time. I mean, I only do fresco, so I don't,
yeah,
I don't
nice.
and the houses that I've done level 3, no sand, and then we go right into
Yeah.
the finishing system. So it's not I don't have to like
The skimming blades they're really cool.
yeah.
To the point where it's almost cheating. It's like, I mean, you can load up a butt joint and then you just get your skim blade and do one pull up and you get the whole butt joint in once,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And why not adapt a new technology to make your
You don't
job
find
better?
you don't find it a pain in the ass to kind of have that blade when you're cruising around doing butt joints and to clean it off.
It is.
It is
It,
kind of
it is. It's one more tool that you're carrying around, one more tool
okay.
that you have to clean.
Sure.
But I do think it makes it a lot easier for less experienced people to
Yeah.
finish good, right?
Ah, okay.
I actually learned to trade in Australia where it was all
Okay.
hawk and trowel, and the boys out there they're amazing,
I'll bet.
amazing papers. I'm sure you followed a few of them on Instagram.
Yeah, I met
Uh,
Brandon with level 5. He lives in Australia. Really cool guy.
yeah,
I think Brandon. I might have that wrong,
yeah,
but very nice guy. He comes on social, but he doesn't. He's just a super good, and you could just tell he's a really good finisher. He's very
yeah.
knowledgeable.
I like to follow. They're called Drywall Gangsters.
Drywall gangsters.
Yeah, if you check out their Instagram, this is a big claim, but I actually think they're doing probably some of the best work like in the world right
That's
now.
okay, man. You can
I mean,
claim whatever you want.
yeah, their work is amazing.
Okay.
It
And
is just
where are they out of Australia?
yeah, yep. Just incredible work.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think Australia is producing such a high level of finishers?
What it actually comes down to is training. Out
Okay.
in Australia, um, I would say 95 to 97% of the boys and ladies as well are doing apprenticeships.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
like and it's a 4-year apprenticeship where your first 3 years you're doing 3 weeks on site and 1 week at school every month,
Oh, wow. That's a
right?
ton. No wonder they're
So
so good. Yeah.
So you're learning from the guys on site, but then you're going to school for 1 week and you're learning in a non-threatening environment with your peers. And they're also training. So in Australia, drywall guy is called a plasterer. And
Okay. Yep.
here that's an outside trade. But in Australia, you still get trained with kind of more traditional interior plaster with like plaster cornice, plaster ceiling roses and stuff for like Victorian style buildings.
I just saw a post about that. What somebody from Australia was like, yeah, in Australia we do all kind. We hang it, we frame it, we like, we do the acoustical ceilings, we do everything.
I made a comment on that, and it's true. Like I only did commercial in Australia. I did high rise, all the union stuff, hospitals. And as a commercial, I'm gonna say drywaller, but plaster.
Yeah.
We read plans. I do metal framing. We put in door frames. We hang drywall.
Yep.
Finish drywall. You frame ceilings with concealed grid, and you also do T-bar ceiling grid.
Okay. Now, did you learn in an apprenticeship program in Australia?
So I didn't.
Yeah.
So I was fully signed up for it. Everything was official, but then at that time, my immigration status didn't allow me to. It didn't make sense for my employer to do it. They wouldn't have got the money back from the government type thing.
Okay.
So I became I was the apprentice, but the unofficial apprentice. So I was still like the company apprentice learning from all that, but then I just didn't go through the school program.
Okay.
So they still treated me like crap, and I still had to do all the hard work. And
of course.
Completely learn from the bottom.
Yeah.
As a lot of us did.
And
it was a tough environment, man. You're in commercial, and
mine was too. I was in an apprenticeship program, and the journeymen were assholes, and like you kind of had to have thick skin to. This was 20 some years ago, but we went to class once a week, and then I worked for a company, and you go 50, 60, 70, 80, 85 or whatever, 90, whatever to journeyman. And great way to do it. 3-year program. I didn't make it all the way through, but a really great way to learn. Christy Slade, when I interview her, she's a big union person up in Canada, and we talk about the union a little bit. She's a big advocate for the union. I think it depends a lot on where you're at.
I heard that interview. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a real sweetheart.
Yeah. My union years in Melbourne and like that, they were probably my best years ever being an employee. Our working conditions were amazing.
Yep.
Our pay was amazing. And most importantly, the safety was amazing. The sites were so safe.
Nice.
Then I came back here and looked into the union in California, and just the whole setup and structure of the union is so different. Like it doesn't even make sense, so I never got involved in it, and then also commercial back in Oz to commercial here is like apples and oranges of how even like the whole trade in general is so different. When I moved back to California, I really struggled. I felt like I didn't know anything. There's a huge learning curve of the local market,
Okay.
We did everything smooth, everything's level 4 smooth. You come out here, it's all orange peel, knockdown, skip trowel. Like, I couldn't even patch a hole. I've been doing this stuff at that time for, 12 years, and I couldn't patch a hole. I'm like, what? And I couldn't even believe people pay for this. I'm like, you want orange peel or knockdown? Like, to me, you're just so ugly, And
it's a skill. It's kind of a skill to match. I mean, you see all the posts. It's like, how the hell do I match this texture? How do I match that? My guy, Jack's he's a good patch matched guy. You know,
Yeah.
he can bust out a pretty good patch. You know, he's done a bunch of that. But
It's a,
I'll keep him. I'll like shield him. People will be like, can you do this patch? I'll be like, dude, we don't have time. We don't
yeah.
have time to mess with that.
I mean, it's a true art form. It
Yeah,
really is blending
yeah,
in
yeah,
old to new. I mean, luckily, a lot of repair work we need to, but a lot of repairs or remodels that we're doing now, because we're kind of out of land in San Diego, so it's
yeah,
not all new builds. We're actually
yeah,
doing a lot of real high end remodels, but
yeah.
once we're doing the remodels, everyone's going smooth.
There's
You know,
probably a ton of work for that too around there. And
yeah,
also when you're doing those remodels and somebody wants to, that's a perfect selling point for Fresco. If somebody's like got like 4,000 square foot house and they want all the walls skimmed out, it's like, well, for an extra, X amount of dollars, we're at this price point. If you want to add on 50 cents a dollar, we'll just Fresco Harmony these walls. Like you can
yeah,
double your profit margin. They don't have to paint, and
yeah.
their walls look awesome. So I'll always go that direction if somebody wants to skim walls out, over existing texture. How did you get to Australia? I'm curious about this. Were you born in the United States and then
Yeah.
you did a tour over to
Oh, yeah.
Australia? Do you have family over there? How'd you end up over there?
It's a real long story, but
Well,
uh,
give me the cliff notes.
yeah, I actually I knew some Aussies here. I met. I was able to get a work visa out there.
Why'd you want to go out there?
Um, I wanted to travel.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
Yeah.
um, one of my first building sites I was ever on was actually in Scotland. That's the first bit of drywall I ever hung was in Scotland. So
Awesome.
I've traveled around a bit. Met some people, went to Australia.
Why Australia? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I actually had Aussie friends.
So you had the opportunity to travel to Australia and
Yeah,
work.
yes,
And
yeah,
you were like, I like to travel. I like
yeah.
drywall. Were you in drywall at that time?
No, no. So, basically my mate said, come stay with me. I'll charge you $50 a week to
Okay.
sleep in my garage type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So we set up a little room. I was at a party in the first week and I met a guy that offered me a job laboring for bricklayers. Right. So,
Okay.
and I thought he was going to forget about it because he's a little bit drunk. And then he called me on Sunday night saying, hey, I'll pick you up on Monday.
Yeah.
So that was
5 a.m.
yeah, pretty much. So that was my introduction to Aussie bricklayers.
Okay.
Yeah, me and one other laborer for like 5 or 10 brickies. It's boiling hot, and
That does not sound fun.
it was not fun. All
No.
day, just all you hear is more mud, more bricks, more mud, more bricks. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
running, but it was like hard work, but like honest work. The
Yeah.
boys were good,
Yeah.
and we're off by 2:30 or 3.
Okay.
So you still had the nights to go out and
Yeah.
be like a backpacker, traveler.
How old were you at that point in time?
I was 23 when I
Okay.
moved to Australia. I lived
Okay.
there when I was
And then
23.
how did you get into how did you segue from the bricklaying? You were like maybe did
Yeah,
that a week and you were like, this
yeah.
sucks. I'm gonna go
Uh,
I'm gonna
so
go over and I'm gonna
long
go
story
hang
short,
drywall.
so like a little later, actually, I had a hernia. So I had surgery for a hernia,
Okay.
and I was out of work for a while. I wasn't doing a bricklaying thing then, but I was out of work for a while recovering. And this is in maybe 2007.
Okay.
And Australia was like crying out for tradespeople,
Okay.
right? There was not enough tradesmen to fill all the work. And there's this big thing out there where there's a ton of work. It pays really good. And I was like, well, to me, that sounds like a good career move. There's
Yeah.
never ending work. The pay is incredible. And, I like working with my hands. And so why not? So there's an ad in the paper looking for an apprentice of a company in Brisbane. I applied. I was the only one that applied.
Crazy. That's
So I got
awesome.
the job. And that was a company that out there, a lot of plastering companies are like interior fit out companies. So they'll get the whole interior fit out of a building. I mean, they don't do electrical, they don't do plumbing, but we'll do all the layout, all the metal framing, the hanging, the ceilings, all that stuff. So, I mean, you're thrown into it straight away. It's like, one day you'll be framing with, Mick, and then the next day you'll be up a level learning to trowel, so you're all over. And the good thing about that is the company uses the same core people for the whole project. And you can be on the jobs for a long time, and everyone is really highly skilled, right? And that's my struggle here in San Diego is, I find people that simply hang drywall or finish drywall. Like if I could have a crew of guys that could kind of dabble in all of it, it would just make my life so much easier. Not just but be really good at it too,
How many employees does your company have now?
Now we're small.
It's
just me and a handful of guys day to day, but then I have my subs. I have my production guys that come in when needed. So if I have a big house, I get my hangers, they come in and smash it.
So do you have like a hanging crew, a finish crew, and a texture crew?
No, we don't. So we don't really touch it. So everything's smooth or a light skin. Right. So my finishers, my taping crew, my finishing crew will do that. Right.
Those are the guys you got to be teaching about the fresco. They got to be watching. They got to be watching those how-to videos.
They already are.
Good. Not a kid.
We're doing it. Yeah.
How old are you, Joe?
Huh?
How old are you?
I am 43.
43. Okay. Yeah. So median age for drywallers nowadays. Bill and I talk a little bit about that in the number 7 podcast. Huh?
All the guys I got helping me are older guys. I mean, they're all mid 50s.
Are you interested in bringing in any like younger people to train?
100%.
All right. So if you're in the San Diego area, give Joe Loden a call. And if you're ambitious and not an idiot, and maybe if you have a car, even better.
Yeah, a lot better. Yeah.
I mean, are these like in the 80s, in the 90s? Like these weren't such high, like lofty things to ask for. Like just the fact that like, do you have a car? And no shame to the generation that's coming up in a day and age where it's costs $100 to fill up your tank. It's like, I wouldn't have, it's almost smarter to not have a car,
It's just so hard right now finding labor. I mean, the last ad I put on the internet, I had 2 responses, and they're the same 2 people that responded 2 years ago. And they both got sent home at lunchtime,
crazy. That is crazy.
30 years experience, and he got sent home.
In San Diego, where there's how many millions of people? Like millions. Big
area. Yeah.
I guess you're gonna have to wait for it to get lean, dude, and pull some of those production guys when it gets, and like gain some loyalty.
Well, it's hard for us too, because a lot of production guys don't really like to do what we do. We do that, like the market for high-end remodel, where you might have to move some furniture or cover stuff with plastic. It's so different in the production world where they can just have a radio pumping, smoke a ciggy, and just run the bazooka. That's kind of my problem, is finding the right guys that may want to work in a $5 million house when the client's there and that type of stuff, so it's getting harder and harder to find people. I do think, we need to bring back more trade schools or just more on the job learning, but even those kids aren't calling. Like I have a giant Nissan van. I have a magnet on the side, like, now hiring. And I don't get any calls, you know?
Right.
So
What
it's
about
all
the guys on the corner? You ever grab one of them? You know, the dudes on the corner with the sign, like, we'll work for food. Have you ever like tried grabbing
they
one of
don't
those
work
dudes?
for free, man. Even those guys now want $30 an hour. For real, man.
Yeah. Well,
The guys that
especially in San Diego.
yeah, I think the guys, the Home Depot guys that hang out outside Home Depot, I think
Yeah.
they're asking about 25 an hour now.
Okay.
Yep. So,
It's time to
and that's
tie.
the other thing, everyone wants more money, this and that, but then I'm talking to my builders and I'm like, hey, what's the market looking like? And some of them are simply saying the feedback from their clients is it's just getting too expensive to build. Like, if the prices of everything are going up, that's going back onto the client. Everything gets passed to the client.
Mm-hmm.
Now interest rates as well are going up. So it's getting to the point where building and renovating is becoming so expensive for some clients that, it's a little bit worrying that, we work for really high-end clients and you're getting that feedback from them. So those are kind of the things I think as a business owner, we need to keep an eye on, but
Yep.
of course I want to pay everyone top dollar because we're in
Yeah.
San Diego and it's so
Yeah.
expensive,
Yeah.
and that's another thing I wish the drywall, all the guys, our whole industry, I wish we could kind of come together and work out a way to kind of raise our rates
Yeah.
and be more professional.
Yeah.
As a whole, because that's actually what the big difference I saw coming from Australia to here.
Yeah.
Where
I saw it going 23 years ago, going from Portland in the Union to Arizona,
yeah.
Sierra Vista, Arizona. That was a huge, and so it is regional. I mean, I'll say that much. Chicago and Canada, and it's sort of regional how different finishers do it differently. But yes, I agree. The union, in my opinion, sets a standard. They charge top rate. They do good work. They don't have idiots, but I mean that might all change. But you're absolutely right. Drywall has a bad name, in general.
It has a really bad name. I think that's a lot of that is from lack of formal training. Like if you think of it, what if we had like a national standard where our trade was regulated like electrical or plumbing, or even state regulations where you could actually say we are a licensed trade.
Right.
And I know a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want more red tape on stuff. They just want to go do it. But that's going to bring more money to the industry.
Yeah.
And gain respect. Right.
Yeah.
And with respect and qualifications, the wages are going to increase. So that's a big difference in Australia. It's all the tradies.
Well, and diversification too. Like, so there's this the builders or general contractors. You've seen them. They all know how to drywall. It's like they you know what I mean. They can do it. The only reason they're hiring you is because they don't have time.
They're too busy.
They're too busy. They're too busy, but they want it to look good. So there's this like idea that what we do is anyone can do it. And yes, and I always make the jokes on the pages like, oh, anyone can drywall or, just paint it. It's true. Anyone can do drywall. But like when you're doing a $50,000, $100,000 remodel, $1 million remodel, and you get the GC's handyman that knows how to run a little bit of mud, and they finish the walls, your $100,000 remodel is going to look like shit because you didn't spend a little bit extra money to have a professional come in and do it right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a challenge. That's a big challenge. Like, so we don't have the respect because they don't respect what we do as tradesmen.
But what maybe what is the question there though? Why do we not have the respect?
Yeah.
That's the question. Yeah. So why are we not respected? Because we all know it's not easy.
Because
We all do it. And even
because we're idiots, Joe.
yeah, but I mean, all the GCs I work with, they know it's not easy. That's why I work with some really good GCs, and they pay well, and they give us time to do it because they know it's an art.
Yeah, and a good GC will pay a good drywall company. They will choose that if they're knowledgeable, they will pay a good drywall company extra money over the guy that comes in and will do it for half price and all of that.
Their name is on the end product.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So it makes way more sense for them to pay a little bit more. And then when you walk into the finished job after paint, it looks amazing and just a bunch of lumps.
I think too that to answer your question, I think a lot of tradesmen will compromise. We don't have enough confidence in our ability, so we'll compromise our price point. And Daniel Osborne and I talk about that. We talk about, like, you know, my boss in Crested Butte used to say, look them in the eye and bid them high. And there's a lot to that. Like, he was a good contractor. Like, we didn't have like the best work, but he cared about how the drywall was hung for shear strength. He cared about how it looked, you know, and he would take care of the GCs after the project. And so all those things, he would get extra money, you know, because he cared and he had a good crew that showed up.
Yeah. I mean, a big thing for me right now, like I tell all my guys, is we work for the same GCs, right? You know, because the GC will have their team that goes on pretty much every project. We're very lucky that we're the only one bidding to most of our GCs. Like, I don't have competition. We've proven ourselves.
Yep.
And therefore they're not sourcing out the bid to 3 other companies. Now, the way you get there is by telling your crew that we're not JDL. We are XYZ General Contracting. Like, we are all part of the team that gets this house over the line.
Okay.
So everything we can do for the builder to make this product amazing, we do it because we are part of that team.
I like it. Yeah, right? That's and that whole team in construction, like, I mean, if you look at it like that, like, you know, like, okay, the electrician didn't pick up their mess. Like, you know what? I'm going to pick it up because it's my job site and I am a part of this team.
And then there's always that bitching with the electricians. We're friends with all the Sparkies. Yeah. Right?
Those electricians are never going to pick up their trash.
They don't. Just give up. Yeah. But I'm all about, like, being part of the team, because think about the end of the job. When that project goes smooth, it goes on budget, and then you get the photos of the finished thing for your portfolio.
Absolutely.
So, number one, if that job goes smooth, the builder is going to get more work. He's going to get more recommendations. That's going to be more jobs for you guys, right?
Yep.
Number two, if you are easy to work with, more people are going to want to work with you, right?
Right.
So it's not about just that small thing of, okay, we're on $250 a square foot, whatever. We want to get in here, bang it out, get our money, and screw it.
Yeah.
Like, that's completely the wrong way to look at
it. But a lot of that is predicated on the not making, you know, they bid the job, they underbid the job, so they have to bang it out. It looks like crap. They got to go back. The builder's not happy. But the builder's cheap. They go to the next cheap guy and they get the same results. So
that's the whole thing. A lot of running a good business is being picky on who you do business with, right?
Yeah.
You know, I only work with people that I trust. We have a relationship. I've never had trouble getting paid, anything like that. You keep hearing these stories of, when should we put a lien on the house and stuff like that?
Yeah, I read that one this morning. I commented on it. I was like, well, my only advice there is, like, if you do have to lien a project, get an attorney and have them draw up the paperwork and make sure everything's sound before you waste the time.
No disrespect to our drywall community, but legal advice, hit up a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to go on the drywall groups for legal advice.
No.
Just a blanket tip
Yeah.
from the
So
drywall podcast.
I think we should leave out legal advice, medical advice, and politics out of
Politics.
drywall groups.
But
Um,
I mean, nobody gets too bent out of shape about religion anymore, it seems like. But yeah, politics and legal advice for sure. Somebody said, I saw one of the comments. I really chuckled to myself. One of the comments was, go to their bank and ask their bank for the money."
I wonder how that will work. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and then somebody commented like, "Dude, you cannot go. That'll never work. Like,
No.
trust me." Yeah, you can't go to somebody's bank and ask for money. You can get a judge to court order them to give you the money. That is a very long, arduous process.
But even then, they don't really have to pay you. You know, all
Even
they can
then,
do, they
yeah,
can put
they
a
can.
lien, they can put a lien on the house, but if you're not selling your house, it's not
Yeah,
a big
if
deal.
they're renting, they can skip town, whatever. Yeah, and it goes back to have adequate paperwork,
Yeah.
insurance, and make sure that you are have a contract in
Yeah.
place before
Yeah.
you start that project.
Yeah.
And I mean, I go so far as to, there's different schools of thought, but I still get at least a deposit, but a half, up front and half at the end of the job. I mean, that's a good way to do it. But, a lot of guys will like go and do the job and, they fund the whole project,
Yeah.
and like, they stand by that. And it's like, when the job's done, I'll get paid if they like the work. But I'm like, kind of like, hey, let's meet halfway.
Mm-hmm.
And then we both have skin in the game.
Yeah.
At that point, there's trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And that varies by state of what
Yeah.
deposit you can take.
Yep.
California, we're real limited on deposits.
Interesting.
And I've never taken a deposit.
Now, let
Uh,
me ask you this. When you go buy groceries at the grocery store, do they let you take the groceries home and test them out before you pay, or do you have to pay for those groceries when you get them?
True,
Yeah.
true. But on real big jobs, we'll do like a 1/3 draw.
Yeah.
When materials arrive on site. See, once materials are on site, they're no longer mine. They
Yep.
belong to the project. So
And the
you can,
garbage and
yeah,
all the garbage belongs
yeah.
to them
So
too.
so you can pay for it. 1/3 on hanging and then 1/3 on finishing. But
Okay.
for us, there's not a real big difference between hanging and finishing. That's normally on a big job could be
Okay.
a week or so, so
Yeah.
and it takes some of my clients that long to cash a check anyway. But like
Right.
I said, it's doing business with people that you have a relationship and trust. And that's not easy, of course. When you're starting off,
Yeah.
you have to kind of
I'm
deal
talking
with
about
people.
that too. These standards are put in place when we start. So when I started working, I'm giving my stuff away. I mean,
Yeah,
for nothing, I'm going in and doing house. I still give it away. I still do like accent walls and stuff just to do them, just for advertising.
yeah,
But then, like, what happens is during lean times, it's like you start to question that oh, that 2,000 looks attractive. I know the job's worth 3,000, but I really need that 2,000 to pay my bills. And
yeah,
so you'll compromise your confidence, your integrity to get the lower price. And I think in drywall, we do that a lot more. And then what happens is, especially with GCs or builders, they'll recognize that right away. If they're able to beat up a subcontractor, they'll beat them up. Some subs, I'm sorry, some GCs, not all,
yeah,
but they're in it to make money, and they'll squeeze that drywall bid as much as they can, and as much as we allow them.
yeah. And that's a really good point. And that's why I believe as a drywall companies, we need to do a better job at selling, not
Yeah.
just selling your price, but selling our trade
Mm-hmm.
and really how skilled it is, right?
Right.
And a lot of that is, look professional,
Yeah.
turn up on time, do what you're gonna say you do.
Yes.
Don't smoke on a job site. Don't have the radio blasting super loud. Like be a pro.
Yeah.
Keep your job site clean.
I
If
like
we
it.
start doing all those things, people are gonna start looking at us like, oh, these guys aren't just some hacks, Dave the handyman. These guys are pros.
Yeah.
They got all the right tools. They look clean. The job site's clean. The job site's safe. The
Yeah.
job looks good. So
Yeah.
if we all start doing that throughout the whole industry, prices and respect will raise. And that's what we all want. So we all need to start looking at this as this is a career, right? This is not filling in 2 years before I go do some roofing or something. Like, this is a skilled trade.
Yeah.
Takes years to master. So why don't we show that to people by just being more professional? And it's real simple, man. Just kind of be on time, look professional, be polite to the client, be polite to the GC. Because I see all this stuff on the Facebook groups of guys just walking off site like, oh, it's not ready, blah, 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 like not being part of the team. I think it's a little too much me right now, and I'm like, team. Once you become the team, then the GCs are going to have that loyalty to you, and then you're not going to be chasing the work, and then your price is going to be going up, and then all your boys are going to keep working.
Really good points. Really good points. Like we do as a society, we tend to, I call it in Albuquerque, if people don't let you in, I'm sure people drive crappy all over, but in Albuquerque, they especially drive like ridiculously fast and crazy. They don't really pull people over here for speeding. So it's just like insane. There's crashes every day, but I call it the me first mentality. And it's not it's a more of a we, I think that same thing on those posts too, like when you walk into a job, and I did one recently where it was, hey, by all means, I have the right to be the prima donna. I'm putting on Fresco Harmony, like I can go in and and there was a bunch of garbage in the way, and the contractor, he did a whole house finish in Santa Fe in Fresco Harmony. I didn't do it. Elite Drywall did it, but he had a small office building that he wanted done. My guy was busy. This was last summer. We were really crazy busy, and I did it. I just went over and did it myself. There was a giant pile of just debris in the middle of the room, and I was pissed, but I moved the stuff and just started working. And I'm glad I didn't walk off because I thought about it, but the owners of the company showed up and moved the stuff for me and apologized for it being there. So there's something to be said for that. And the fact that I was there and I wasn't gone, and he didn't have to call me and be like, dude, I thought you were starting today. Where are you? And then now all of a sudden we're not on a team. I'm like, oh, well, all that stuff needs to be out of there before I can do Fresco Harmony. Like, that's just kind of a dick way to be.
It is. I mean, who do you want to deal with? Like a laid back, easygoing guy that wants to be part of the team, or this drama Johnny? Find something wrong, if anything. And I see a lot of guys are just looking for an excuse for a day off. Like, oh, the mud's a little wet, or this shit's in my way, like we're out of here,
that's true. Humility. I think I'm talking a little bit about humility. It creates an air of that team aspect that you're talking about. I really like that approach, that idea of we're all in this together, and also not only a team on a construction site, but a team as far as the trade, the drywall trade in the United States, specifically in Canada, like all over. But like in the United States specifically, it seems like there's a real need to raise the level of professionalism.
Yeah, I see that. I see what the Canadians are doing. I see what the Aussies are doing.
Mm-hmm.
That was first big wow factor when I was dealing with the Aussies. Every single person's wearing a uniform, right?
Right.
They're all going to trade school.
Right.
They're multi-skilled, and like if you go out to like a bar or a club in Australia and you say you're a tradesman, it's like, yeah, like people look up to you. Like being a tradesman's cool, you know, because you're a professional, you're making good money, you're normally pretty fit, you know, and it's like, yeah, the tradie. Here, it's complete opposite. They're like, oh, you do construction? It's like they don't want anything to do with you. They're like, oh, how many felonies do you have, you know?
So, and the reality is now that if you're a tradesman, you've got money in your pocket. It's not like you don't have $100,000 loan fresh out of college and sitting in a coffee shop having a meeting about nothing that isn't going to go anywhere. You're on the job making money, and you're learning a trade that you can take anywhere in the country and make money with.
And that's why we need to change the opinion and perspective of the trade industry, because that's why in Australia, why so many kids have got involved, it's because they know there's money in it, right? It's a good career, where here, a lot of people in society, the general public still doesn't know that, right? And we are kind of looked down upon. But I also think we are to blame for that in some ways, right? And that's why if we had a collective agreement to just try to be a little more professional, I believe people will start looking at us differently. You know, the only way to change is from within. And right now, within would be the industry. Yeah. So I think we need some, you know, role models and stuff to teach people, not just to be professional. Like you see people asking about pricing and stuff all the time. And I actually think that's fine. Not, I do too. You know, there's no very little formal training out there.
No, we need to be more supportive of people coming on, specifically the Facebook groups, asking for advice. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with somebody asking for advice. You know, I mean, even if it's a homeowner and they're trying to get prices so that they can like beat up their sub, then that's one thing. And you can tell if it's a newbie coming into the trade and they're doing a side job, hanging and finishing a garage, and they want to know how much it is, tell them how much it is. Tell them what you charge. And give them some guidance. I got guidance from my boss in Crested Butte. We talked about square footage. If I hadn't asked, I wouldn't know how to do it. I wouldn't own Fresco Harmony today, and we wouldn't be talking. He was a guide. He was a teacher for me. Yeah. And in order for the young people to feel welcome, we need to show leadership.
Yeah. And you hear people complaining all the time that there's not enough young people coming up, but then you see young people asking questions and they just get picked on. Yeah. You know, so it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be careful with that. Maybe in the 90s that would fly, but it doesn't fly today. Like we need to nurture these up and coming tradesmen and tradeswomen as well.
Yeah, 100%. You know, two things. I really think we need more of a push to get women into trades. Like in Australia, I worked with some amazing lady tradies, as we call them.
Lady tradies, I like it.
Yeah, that were just amazing tapers. Yeah, and definitely we need more of a push. I think they kind of bring a good vibe to the whole site.
You know, different genders, you know, different approaches to the trade, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, nice talking to you, man. This is you know, an interesting direction. Daniel Osborne and I talked a lot about this because he's a character, man, and he's really fun to talk to. And
I've followed him on. I chatted a couple times on Facebook. over the years. Yeah.
He's very professional. Like, so we talk about cussing a lot. He doesn't cuss on the, I mean, to the point, where like he doesn't want his guys cussing. He's got like a swear jar that he uses. And that might be a tall order for some tradesmen, but and myself included. But it's that we were talking about professionalism. You want to charge the high rates.
Yeah.
You want to make the money. You got to dress up, you got to show up, and you got to look professional. That uniform thing, we were required to wear white pants in the union up in Washington, where I learned.
Yeah.
They laughed at you if you didn't.
Yeah, we didn't wear white. I mean, Australia, the safety standards are just so high. Most of the guys out there wear some sort of like a tan or khaki pants. Okay. It's all high vis. But only painters would wear white out there. So
that's what Christy said too. But drywallers up in Washington and Oregon union, we wore whites.
Well, and I think that might be the difference between like a taper and then what we did all around stuff.
True.
Because a lot of days, I probably went a good year and a half, 2 years without putting mud on a wall. I did nothing but metal framing. You know, and then all of a sudden you're on a new project and it's like, we need to tape, so like I say, we were more all around, like in a lot of ways we were kind of like carpenters, interior commercial carpenters that know how to tape.
Right. They would do like we did acoustical ceilings, corner bead. But the carpenters union, the carpenter dudes would put up the drywall, which was interesting. That's a little different.
And then see that's the other thing, is how the union here is so like broken up into like little bits. And I truly think that makes for a weaker union.
Yep. And they're not unified. The unions aren't unified.
Yeah, and it's like, local 619 or 815. I said, what's this local shit? You'll have no power being local. See, in Australia, we had one national union that covered all the trades except electrical and plumbing. So painting, carpentry, bricklaying, all the traditional trades are under one union.
Very cool.
Right? And it's a national union, only broken up by states.
Okay.
So you have Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, and that. So they operated a little bit as a state, but there's no locals. So it's not like these little guys. So you have the whole power of the state behind you. And then you have the national power where they threaten to strike nationally. And that's how you actually get power.
Yeah, that'll shut down the whole industry.
I don't know if Albuquerque has a union, but what if the guys in Albuquerque are mad? Like, nobody cares. It only make a difference if all of New Mexico.
There's a little crew willing to go in there and do the work, guaranteed. Down here, it's just nothing. Like, there's no way that I wouldn't run a drywall company in Albuquerque. Very difficult. Very difficult. But there's a few here that are good and they make money.
Yeah.
Last question before we wrap up. I wanted to know, have you messed around, because you were talking early on in the podcast about being open to new ideas and trying fun new stuff. Have you messed around with the trim text and the drywall art and the specialty beads?
I love.
Do you sell that to your builder, like the concept of stepple or reveal bead around doors? Like, that shit's cool, and I don't think the designers know about that stuff, man.
Well, okay, so a couple points here. You hear people saying that they're the top tradesmen, right? I know everything about drywall, and I always say you haven't really mastered your trade until you can sit down at a table with 4 or 5 architects and talk your trade. If you can sit down with designers, architects, builders, and then give them new ideas and sell them what we can really be doing, that's when you really know your trade, right?
Yeah.
So just running in there at the bazooka taping, I have so much respect for those guys. I do. Sure. There's also so much more to our trade that people need to learn.
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Uh,
I mean, Trimtex had to discontinue because
yeah,
like we're not selling it. I get
yeah,
all the time people are like, "Oh, well that won't sell in my area." And I'm like, "Dude, I could sell this. If I was in your area, I could
yeah,
sell it anywhere that I live."
yeah.
Guaranteed. Like and it's the
Sure.
same with Trimtex too. Those designers and builders don't know that there's these super cool possibilities for
Yeah.
trim out there.
And that's what I was saying before, as I think it's my job as the owner of my company to stay up to date with new products. And I need to take those to the designers and builders and share my knowledge
Mhm.
of how we can make this job better,
Yeah.
right? Because if I'm doing that for my builders and the other competition and their builders are not doing that, who's going to be delivering a more modern, cool house? And
Absolutely.
whose houses are going to win the awards, right?
Right, right.
So, like the house I'm doing right now, it's a 7,000 square foot remodel, and the cost and every door, every window's been changed out, and there's no wood trim anywhere. Everything is
Beautiful.
LB'd around every door, every window is
You
round.
sold that, you sold them on an LB?
No, not on that one. That one was already with the designer.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. You really need to kind of pick where you want to go with this industry. There are some guys that are really happy just doing production and not caring that much and just want to
Yeah.
knock out houses. There's other people that kind of like me, I really want to deliver unique, cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite things to do is the Z shadow bead
Yeah.
on a ceiling, around a ceiling, so it actually makes the ceiling look like it's floating,
Yeah.
right? Super cool. And
Yeah.
the thing, back in Australia, we were doing all of that stuff all the time. And I came back here and like none of that's happening. I truly felt like when I came back here, we were a solid 15 years behind what they're doing back in Australia. You know, people are still using single shot screw guns. I mean, in Australia, if you turned up with a single shot corded screw gun, I'm telling you, you wouldn't have a job. You would not have a job.
They use like the magazine screws, right?
Everything is collated, and it's been collated for 20 years.
Okay.
Like, I mean, 100%. I mean,
I always see that. I'm not much of a hanger, but I always see that, and I see those drills, and I'm like, that seems faster.
it is.
I'm no expert, but holding a handful of screws versus a magazine with a bunch of screws in it, that just seems like a slicker. It may be a little more expensive.
Well, that's the thing. People here complain about the price point, and because it's a new product here, the price is higher.
Sure.
And I hear from some drywall hangers that they actually have to provide their own screws.
Right.
I think it like blows me away. Like, why would you be using anything out of your own pocket to do a job for a builder? Because you're a sub. Like, I'm here to provide labor. I'm a drywall hanger. Materials should be provided. Screws are materials.
Sure.
So,
well, that's that one could be debated for sure. Because you want to.
why would a drywall hanger have to bring screws?
Well, you factor it in. You factor it into your bid price, right? If you're buying materials, then you can buy the materials you want.
But it doesn't make sense because they're not buying any materials. They're not buying board, or they're just labor. They have a labor price of like $12 to $15 a board to hang.
Okay.
But they're not buying a board. They didn't do a board count. They didn't do the delivery. They're doing nothing with materials, but then you have to bring screws.
Shouldn't have to bring screws. So screws should be there.
How does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's a way to beat them up a little more.
Well, but it's dangerous for the drywall contractor, because where I'm from, we have to do a nail inspection or a fixing inspection.
Yeah.
And we've had inspectors come and they can look at the whole job and they can point at 3 screws and say, take them out.
Yeah.
And you reverse them out and show them the screw.
Oh, wow.
Now it needs to be the right screw if we're going into wood, metal. So if I just left that up to my hangers to bring their own screws and they were short screws and then they started putting in the wrong screws, who's liable?
Right.
I'm liable.
Very good point.
So that should be my responsibility to provide all the necessary materials to get the job done by code
Good
and
point. Good
to
point.
make sure I'm covered.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
These are good questions. It's been a fantastic conversation. This is just a conversation, but I do think things like the Drywall podcast helps bring us
Yeah.
together. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is something that can help bring tradesmen together.
Yeah.
I get to look at you in the face, albeit on a computer, but still, this is a different experience than being like, "Oh, Joe Loden, you suck."
Yeah.
on the computer. Why are you doing it that way? I can actually ask you, and then instead of being a jerk, we can have a conversation about it. And then maybe if I'm not stubborn, I can learn something. Like,
Yeah.
maybe if I listen to Joe and Nick talk about, being mean to new people, maybe it clicks that, like, maybe if we're trying to get people in the trade, we shouldn't be so mean to the new people coming in.
And I found that lack of wanting to try new things in America. The Americans seem dead set on their ways, and the same thing, like an old school Makita single shot screw gun.
And you know what? It carries over into the distributors as well. The distributors are super stubborn. The entire trade, the like all the way into the like, the companies that are producing and delivering the materials are very stubborn.
Really evolved that much.
No.
In 40, 50 years.
Yeah. And society is evolving past it.
Yeah.
I can do a podcast now that costs me nothing, and I can deliver it to the world.
Yeah.
From Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like, that's crazy.
Very cool.
Yeah. Joe Loden. JDL, Joseph Daniel Loden Drywall, out of San Diego, California, crushing it over there, doing remodel work, and also inspiring maybe change and some open-mindedness in the drywall industry, and setting the bar.
Yeah. And then one final thing too, we're talking about younger guys with any questions. If anyone hears it, but feel free you can send me a DM if you have a question or you need advice. I'm not saying I know everything, but I think I got 18, 19 years in the game, and I've done union commercial, I've done repair, we do high-end residential, and I run a company. So I kind of have a good foundation where I might be able to give you some sort of half decent advice.
After talking to you for an hour, Joe, I would call you with any drywall question that I have. Without a doubt, you definitely know your stuff. And what's a good way if I wanted to get a hold of Joe? Do you have an email that you use? A website? Does your company have a website?
We do not have a website, but pretty active on Instagram. So just hashtag JDL Drywall on Instagram. That's where we got probably 100 posts on Instagram with our projects, and getting more and more active. And my email is Joe_Loden, Loden @hotmail.com. And also on LinkedIn as well, just Joe Loden for any of the.
Are we friends on LinkedIn? We should be.
I think so.
All these Podbean podcasts get, as soon as they're dropped, they go to LinkedIn.
Okay, I've been on Spotify.
You listen on Spotify?
Yeah, super easy. I got my Bluetooth in my van. I drive hour and a half every day minimum, so I just put on the podcast. And
nice.
Yeah.
The John Zulke podcast just dropped this morning, so you'll have to check it out. We talk about plaster and stuff. He's from Wisconsin, super cool guy, cool. Very knowledgeable.
All right, looking forward to it.
And what else? Oh, billboard. If you had, although we talked a lot about how we can shift and instill inspiration in the drywall community, locally and beyond, what would you say to your drywall community if you had the chance? Maybe put something on a billboard, or shout out with a megaphone to everybody in the drywall community. What would you tell them?
Right now, I think, be confident, realize how skilled we really are. Don't let anyone tell you we're not a skilled trade. This takes years to master.
Yep.
The other thing is, don't be afraid to learn new skills.
Okay.
Right? If you're a taper, learn a little bit of painting. It's going to make you a better taper. Vice versa. Don't be afraid to learn. This trade is constantly going to be evolving. Yep. Don't be left in the background. Yep. Evolve with it, or try to be a leader with the change and push to be better. I see a lot of people very worried about competition. Yeah. If you strive to be better than the others, you're going to put yourself in a new market where you're going to worry a lot less. Yeah. And the way to get there is simple, man. Just be on time, do what you say you're going to do a good job, and be easy to work with. Yep. Once you start doing those things, your phone will be ringing and you'll be working. I like it. But as a whole, it's a whole industry. Just if we can all just try to step up, baby steps each day, each week, each year as an industry to come together, be more organized and be more professional, the outcome of that will be amazing. Love it. Love it. I'm inspired, man. I just I love it. You've been fantastic to talk to. This is just a gift. So I would like to talk more about just less of the mud, but how we can make the lives of drywall people better. And you know what? And circling back to Fresco Harmony too, that my whole thing was like, I broke away and I started to do colored mud, and it was a lot of fun. Obviously, I want to make money like the next guy, but my instant concept was like, how can I share this? How can I share this with the drywall community? And some of it's about making money, and introducing a new product, but a lot of it is like you said, it's fun to do. And I wanted other drywall dudes. You've got all this skill that how. It's so easy to pick up. I wanted other people to experience that, and homeowners being like, wow, I love my bedroom wall. Like, it's amazing. No, I mean, if people can learn to, sell the product a little bit, like I said, turn up on time, take time to do a little bit of masking, keep the client's house neat, they can make 5 times money in a day doing one wall than running a bazooka all day. You can make a lot of money doing it if you especially if you have an existing client base. Like, this is just another like arrow in your quiver, like that you can really use, so cool, man. Cool. Been great. Thank you. It's been cool talking to you. I'm gonna follow you next time I'm in San Diego. We're gonna get together and go grab something to eat or something. Cool, dude. We'll show you some taco spots. Yeah, for sure. All right, Joe. You have a good day, and we'll talk soon. Okay. Take care. Bye. Special thanks to Joe Loden of JDL Drywall for being on the Drywall podcast today. Be sure to catch the Drywall podcast on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. You can also see this podcast and hear it on YouTube, our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And thank you for joining the Drywall podcast today. We hope that you have a fantastic day. And remember, keep drywalling.